Hello, everyone. Welcome to another roleplay one-shot. This one will be Dogs in the Vineyard. We've got a great cast of characters, as well as Adam. He's not a great cat. He's our GM today. So we get to treat him like shit because he's going to kill us all.
You've got a great cast of characters, and also this piece of shit.
Exactly. Look, man, you're the enemy. You're the enemy for this show.
He's still here.
Exactly,
so
Adam. Let's go around and just do some quick introductions before we jump into character creation. Adam, we'll start with you, sir. I at least called you a sir.
Why even bother? All right. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Adam Koebel. I'm a familiar face. Here at Roleplay, you might recognize me from such shows as Swan Song or Mirror Shades, or the currently running D&D show we're doing called Court of Swords. I'm starting to feel a little like the Troy McClure of Roleplay, to be honest. I gotta step up my game vis-a-vis the Troy McCluring. Yeah, I'm here to enforce God's will on y'all, or alternately, I guess, be Satan. I could be both. I'm here to serve God.
Yeah, you have options.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm super excited to play Dogs in the Vineyard. This is one of the first kind of real, like, small press, like, indie games that I ever played. I remember getting it back in 2005 and being like, "What the hell is this magic?" So I'm super excited to share it with everybody.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before the show. This was one of the most requested rule sets for us here at Roleplay to have played. And I know nothing about it. I know Adam's well versed in it. I think the other guys, you've done a little bit of reading in the PDF, but you're all fresh. No one's played the system, correct?
Correct.
I have never played Dogs in the Vineyard.
Okay, good. I won't be the only noob here. Fantastic.
I've played Dogs in a variety of other settings. But
Okay, never in the Vineyard?
Yeah, it's never
Dogs in
happened
the junkyard.
It is a unique
Yeah.
place. Yeah, exactly.
Dogs in the Junkyard is a game about DMX, I think.
I would play that. I would play that. Like, you're the Rough Riders instead of the I would play that.
The answer to "you think this is a game" is yes. Yes, I do.
Adam, you can't make another game. All right, you've already made too many games. You can't make Dogs in the whatever it was, the DMX game. It's not possible. You're not doing it. I'm sorry. Mr. Matthew Mercer, it's a quick introduction. You've been on the channel before, but welcome back.
Hey, happy to be back. My name is Matthew Mercer. I'm the Dungeon Master for Critical Role on Geek and Sundry's Twitch, as well as a voice actor. Stuff coming up. The protagonist in Titanfall 2, which comes out in a week, I think.
I recognize that voice.
Nice.
As well as Masquerada, which just came out on Steam, which is a great RPG. Check it out. And then, of course, I'll be at BlizzCon in a few weeks for a bunch of Overwatch voiceover panels. So hopefully see you guys there.
What are the Overwatch voice? Do you just say the lines over and over and people freak out? Like what is that panel going to be?
Yeah, just an hour of us just repeating the dialogue.
Just in character having conversations. Be a great panel.
I just asking questions about the process, and inevitably someone will be up like, "Hey, what time is it?" And I'm like, "There you go. You happy?"
Yeah, that'll be an interesting. That'll be the one con where you probably get asked that more than any other, and by the end of it, you'll probably hate McCree or love McCree even more.
No, it's gonna be great because everyone's gonna be, "Hey, what time is it?" I'm like, "It's 2:42."
Just walk away, smile, and you're like, "What an asshole!"
I'm helping out so many people here.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be a lot of fun. I might jump into that panel.
Awesome.
Mr. Austin, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
The editor-in-chief over at Waypoint now.
That's correct. We just renamed it Waypoint. It was Vice Gaming. It used to be at Giant Bomb. My work has been at Paste and a bunch of other places. It's been a busy couple of years. And yeah, we're launching Waypoint on this Friday with a 72-hour live stream. 72 games on 72 hours.
Oh, shit.
Are you staying awake for 72?
No, but like, I want to be honest with myself and say, like, I can't imagine sleeping much because it's like, I'm just going to be afraid everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The other thing people might know me from is Friends at the Table, which is an actual play podcast focused on critical world building, smart characterization, and fun interaction between good friends. You can check that out at friendsattetable.net.
Fantastic stuff. Good luck with the 72-hour stream. Don't stay up for 72 hours. It's not good for you.
I'll do my fucking best.
24 is the most. There's one of our other DMs for the show way back when did 140 hours straight on a stream somehow.
I think you're legally insane at that point.
Yeah.
I prefer to commit suicide all at once, to be honest. Like, not over a
it's
long
like that
period
point.
of time.
It's like that point, like in a marathon run, where your body just starts to eat itself.
Yeah. He was
Totally.
towards the end, if I remember correctly. It was about 2 or 3 years back. He had the bucket of ice water, and every 30 minutes was splashing his face in it to
Oh,
keep
yeah.
awake, and
Just to regain his vigor.
yeah, just torture, just torture. So don't do that. Don't do that, kids. That's way too much for the normal person, or for anyone, regardless of what type of person you are. Last but certainly not least, Jerry from Penny Arcade. How's it going, sir?
You know what? It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me on. I've never had a chance to use Roll20 for anything. All of my rolling has been, firmly in a table environment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super cranked up. I love this indie RPG type shit, and I am ready to roll.
I didn't have my first rolling in person experience till about a month ago, Jerry. So we're quite the opposite here.
What in the fuck?
I know that's heresy amongst a lot of
That's not okay.
tabletop players. Yeah,
Fucking 2016, man.
it was
It's all
it was
virtual.
it was a weird. I guess I've probably 2,400, 2,500 hours. There you go. Austin's getting. I could join you. I could join.
Okay.
It's right over there.
No. It's just, honestly, I'm overjoyed because what it means is because it means the same thing to you, right?
Right.
That for me, the important thing is that the culture gets transmitted to the next generation of players, and I'm overjoyed to learn that you were able to develop like an authentic fascination. Like if you've been role playing, the first time I ever rolled dice was when I was 6, right? And so I have this idea in my head. It's probably completely nonsense, right? It's like when we started reading digital books or like Kindles instead of regular books, right? Like I've invested all of this magic in like the physical artifacts of it.
Sure.
But really, it's the fact that we're all together playing a game.
Right.
Like that's the important part, and the medium isn't the most important part, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Is this the part where the big rainbow star flies across the screen?
Yeah.
Or you
That's
know.
yeah. the
Role
more you
playing
know.
games are a conversation.
Yeah.
We'll get that made for hour 2. We'll get the graphics made for hour 2. Don't worry
Perfect.
about it.
Nice.
Don't worry about it. Well, cool. That's everyone for the show. Well, let's get to know each other's characters, and by that I mean we need to create them. So, Adam,
Yes.
this is where you take over, sir,
Yeah. So dogs in the
or
vineyard.
Devil, whatever I should have been. It should have been Devil Koebel instead of
I
GM
believe, I
Koebel.
believe that my name in Roll20 is the devil himself. but
Great,
It's
fantastic.
It's fine. So yeah, dogs in the vineyard. It's for folks who have not heard about the game or didn't look into it prior to this and who are just wandering in from the internet cold and confused. Dogs in the Vineyard is a very focused role-playing game. It's about one thing. It's about religious authority. It's a game in which you play characters who at a young age have been imbued with a kind of Judge Dredd-like ability to go out into the world and right the wrongs of the territories. And while there's a doctrine you are meant to follow, there's a religion, there's the faith of the King of Life. You have the authority to make judgment calls. The King of Life is a practical God, and he recognizes that sometimes someone needs to be there to make the hard decisions, and that'll be you. I'm gonna read you some scripture from the Book of Vincent to kind of get your head in the right place. What it's like to be a dog. So,
Was Vincent Baker?
yeah. So,
Yeah, okay.
Brother Zachary is the worst thing in Brother Joseph's world. It's not just that he's a sinner; it's that he's unteachable, unreformable, too mean, too proud. Brother Zachary single-handedly destroying Brother Joseph's branch. But when Brother Joseph goes to the King of Life for guidance, it's all see to his needs. Call him to repentance, cultivate him, serve him, help him, show him compassion. That, after all, is Brother Joseph's job. Look after each person in his care. The King of Life tells Brother Joseph what's best for Brother Zachary. Brother Joseph has invested more time and care and worry in Brother Zachary than any other single thing in his life. Your character comes to town. The branch has a septic wound, 1,000 resentments, sins waiting to burst free. If you leave it as it is, it'll tear itself to pieces. Brother Joseph's doing his very best by everyone, but it's stone clear. Brother Zachary will become too much for him to carry. Brother Joseph will do something terrible with lots of people caught up in it. There'll be bloodshed, sorcery, damnation. Your character doesn't care what's best for Brother Zachary, he cares about what's best for the branch. You have him drag Brother Zachary out of his house and shoot him in the street. Brother Joseph comes in a rage. All my work, all my time, my investment in Brother Zachary's salvation. And for what? kill him. Your job is to heal the wound, your character says. My job is to save the body.
Boom.
So these are the characters that you will be portraying. You are God's own watchdogs, and the game is inspired by it's a Western fantasy inspired by pre-statehood Utah, the desert territories, early mid 19th century landscapes of high mountains and icy rivers, cedar woods, scrubland, desert. Religious pioneers fleeing persecution and violence in the East. So there's a place outside the lands of the faith called it's called back East. Some folk come from there. They tend to be wrong-headed about certain things, but everybody deserves a chance to join the faith. You're part of this society that's trying to establish itself on faith and righteousness out on the frontier. You made the long trek westward. Everybody's still in danger. The towns are small and isolated and vulnerable to attack from sin and pride and corruption. So the watchdogs of God, which are to say you and your companions, are set on a circuit to deliver mail, to christen babies, to oversee weddings and funerals. But mostly you're there to root out what's wrong, to find where pride has settled in, turned to sin. Sin has invited false doctrine, sorcery, and what have you. So what we're going to need to find out before we can start doing all that is the kind of characters that you are. We're going to find out what sorts of dogs we have before us. And I've added in Roll20 if you want to refer to it. You can obviously use the PDF as well, but I've added a handout called Character Creation that you can take a look at when you make your character. So the first thing to figure out about your character are going to be your dice that you have available to you for your stats, your traits, and your relationships. Now, those three things are what make up the character. There's no skill list in this game. There's only 4 kind of core stats. You're going to be able to freeform make up the traits that describe your character, and then your relationships, you can either have them to begin with, or you can leave them blank. And when an NPC is interesting to you, you can say, "I'm going to take a relationship with that person. I'm personally invested in them." You can throw around blood ties too, because the faith is real small. So you can be like, "Oh, brother Zeke, well that's my mother's cousin," right? You can start to assess your character within a larger community. That's okay for you all to do our way through, because when you're rolling with somebody trying to make a conflict with or against a blood relative, you get an extra die. Plus, it makes it more fun if you're all related and complicated. The first thing we do is we establish the pools that we have to split up for those different things. Your characters are either going to come from a well-rounded background. These are you grew up in the faith, you were given a reasonable education, you showed promise, and one of the elders of the faith called you to service to be a watchdog. This is the kind of character that most of the dogs probably are considered to be. Now you can have a strong history. This is more about like your community raising you up. You yourself might not be a paragon of the faith, but you've got brothers and sisters and cousins who took care of you and helped you out and put you where you are. Now, if you want to have a complicated history, this could mean, maybe your mother was of the faith, but your father's from back east. Maybe you don't have any living relatives. Maybe they were killed in a raid by the mountain folk. Maybe your father's a drinker and it ruined your family. Your character is built on that complicated history. You can take strong community, which means your character comes from a much larger community. You weren't just raised by your parents, but your grandparents and their friends, and the whole community had a hand in shaping who you were. Or you can come from a complicated community, which means similar things to your history, but everything about the community was complicated. And this can be like the whole town went bad and you were rescued from it, or something like that. So again, well-rounded, which is the sort of safe bet, kind of very character focused, strong or complicated history. Just going to give you some more dice for traits. Strong or complicated community, which is going to give you more relationships. So each of you will want to choose one of those things to represent your character.
I think I'm going complicated history. Is that's fine? It's okay to do that?
No, it's legit. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right, good. Should we talk broadly about what we're thinking about, or should we just dive
Yeah.
into
So this whole process is meant to be a little communal, right? Like just
Cool.
we throw out ideas, make suggestions on each other's characters. Kibitzing is totally a thing in this section.
They literally use the word kibitz in there.
It's useful.
So, a lot of games, character creation is a lonely process, right? It's like you and in the book and trying to figure out what kind of character you want, and you bring them to the table fully formed. But in this, it makes more sense to be like, well, I want to be this kind of character. Let's talk about the way that I might be executed. So yeah, why don't we do that? Like, tell us about what you think, kind of in terms of your character generally, and we can.
So one of the things I really like about this setting is that it doesn't imagine a Wild West that was empty. There were the mountain people, and they, the kind of native population, when the faith kind of moved into this space, happened to be away for that year or whatever, and they came back and were like, oh, there are towns here now and fortresses and all sorts of other stuff. I guess we live in the mountains now. Great. And one of the things that it kind of goes into is that the faith doesn't see these people as heretics necessarily, even though some of them are spiritualists. They see them as a kind of a group of the fallen faithful, that there was an ancient covenant with those people. And so there are kind of there are missions to kind of convert them and bring them back into the faith. And I think my character's parents were brought back into the faith.
That's a redemption arc.
Well, it was.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. And so they are deep believers, and raised her to be this kind of paragon. It's like, look, you can be one of the civilized people now. Like, you're with them. And they even maybe mistakenly sent her back east for a little schooling because they knew she needed a little extra something. And what she learned back east was that there was no covenant with her kind there, that she was a savage back east in the women's college. And when she came back a little cynical, a little cruel, and interested in what material power can do for you, including helping people, of course, more than what spiritual power could do for you, or more than what a spiritual assignment could do for you.
That sounds like a complicated history to me.
I think so. I think that's a pretty complicated history. She was born as the sunlight cast into the canyon cave to save his chosen, but you can call her Sister Sunlight Cave.
Nice. I like it. That's great.
So yeah, complicated. Let's go.
That sounds good. Cool. Anybody else got off the bat ideas?
So what's your heart stat?
Good fucking question. Can we
I
go
have
over with
I
this?
have the page up right now that
Yeah.
breaks down what those things mean out here in the vineyard. Just
Yeah. So the characters have 4 stats. The first thing that your history will give you is a number of d6s. All your stats are going to be at least 2, but maybe more. And yeah, the characters are sort of determined and bounded by their acuity, which is perceptive, alert, educated, clever, savvy, or well-read. Their body, so big, healthy, strong, wiry, muscular, graceful, quick, or steady. Their heart, so compassionate, attractive, charming, gentle, courageous, enduring, faithful, or likable. And then their will, so tenacious, aggressive, confident, unflinching, strong-willed, or unshakable. So you'll be some combination of those things. And each of the character creation steps will give you a number of them. So for example, if Austin, if you're going to go with complicated history, you'll have 15 dice to divide among those 4 things.
Right. Is there a floor for those?
Minimum 2.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
See, I don't know what her heart is. I'll have to let me think about it. I want to hear some other ideas while I do some math.
Yeah, that was mostly a joke.
Yeah, mostly.
You tell me an awesome story, and I'm like, well, you know what? Dice.
Yeah, how much dexterity bonus? do you have?
She have a +1 gun, or
Yeah, is she a tank or a healer? Come on.
come on,
Right.
break it down.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Matt, what are you thinking for your character? Do you have thoughts?
I'm thinking complicated community.
Ooh.
Meaning a person of very strong conviction and faith in themselves, but a lot of that comes from the fact that they had a very, very damaged family. I would say perhaps there was a portion in his life where his parents both of the faith, brother of my father was really going down a bad path, and for all of his intents of trying to bring about his brother to turn his life around, it did the opposite. The fact that he couldn't help his own kin drove him into a deep depression, which drove him into alcoholism. And me, basically, I was forced to become the parent of my own parents at a very young age. And while I continuously tried to get my father to give up his habits and to be an attentive family head, he continuously balked me. And out of everyone tried to help, I felt it was my personal investment. And it got to a breaking point where nothing seemed to work. And we got into an argument, which led into a physical fight where I beat my father within an inch of his life, just out of frustration to try and get him. And it stopped. He gave up. He finally broke and stopped drinking. And now my character is having this hard kind of internal struggle between his kind of apparent, rage that he didn't know was brimming beneath the surface. And then when he released it, it had the effect he wanted and it did good, right?
Right.
But that also seems to go against the teachings that he's gone through this whole time. So he's kind of having this internal conflict versus what gets the results versus what I was told should be the process of getting the results. But what if that process fails? Do I resort to this or not type circumstance?
Yeah, there's some complicated matters of pride there, right? Like your father's shirking of his stewardship over you forced you. You're the victim of an injustice, right?
Yeah.
The injustice being that you had to be the parent to your father, an inversion of the natural order. And then, yeah, I mean, the sin of violence comes from injustice. So it's this, there's some old, like, ancient of the faith, you telling them this story, like nodding, like, of course it went this way. We have a better place for you.
Yeah. It's gone that way a couple times.
Yeah, that's a thing. We know about that.
Yeah. We've heard of it. Well, here's what I'm thinking, Adam. Tell me if this is crazy town. Are you? Did you grow up in a religious household?
Me personally, no.
Yeah,
No.
I did thoroughly, deeply, madly.
I believe I knew that. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah, and so there's bedtime stories for me were like the Old Testament. Like that's pretty much how it went. And there's a story specifically about I think it's Nebuchadnezzar, the evil king of Babylon, who throws three faithful into his fiery furnace. And it's three brothers, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I chose Abednego Orlean as the character name. And I think that the fire that they had to contend with in their life was their father also. Except the difference here is that when you're talking about the complicated community, one of the things that I think is exciting about like the founding of a religion is that it's not set yet. It's like when you put the gelatin into the fridge, like there's a lot of religions it could be before it all shakes out. And I think that there are places in the Vineyard where it's not quite set. And I think that dogs come to this town to meet with their father often. And then it's assumed that they leave eventually, but I think that they come to this town and get killed. And I think that ultimately Abednego comes to realize that there is a situation where he becomes aware that the faith that they undertake in this town is not the true faith. And he can't, and as a result, he can't stay there. So there is this missing part of his past that he has to contend with at some point. But for now, he's basically taken tutelage. He left young enough that he was able to attract the attention of the instructive wing of the church.
Yeah, I like that. Well, and a big part of what the dogs need to be on the lookout for is false doctrine, right?
Because I think he sniffs it out. I gave him a lot of heart.
Yeah.
So I went with the well-rounded, even though it doesn't do it. I think that he's just sort of I think that he was never of his community, not fully, not truly. I think that on paper, he should have one of the more complicated number schemes, but I think that he was always just sort of a man out of space and time with his own family and his own community.
Yeah, raised more to be a dog than anything else. But with
Yeah.
this,
Somehow in that corruption, in that dark garden, he came through it.
So, just as a question, is your character's the false doctrine that was left behind, is it still around, or did some other dogs go and deal with that?
I think that he doesn't know. I think that he was probably purposely not sent back. I mean, maybe they were afraid that that would ultimately be his undoing if he was to go back to that place. Maybe its work would be completed upon him. That type of situation, or it could be out there waiting to be managed in a future one shot.
Cool, I like it. Awesome. Okay, cool. Man, I forgot to ask you. Do you have a name for your character?
Yeah.
His name is Simon Doherty.
Okay, brother Simon. Cool. Yeah, traditionally, while many folk have like a first and last name, generally dogs and other members of the faith are referred to as brother or sister, and then their first name.
So Brother Simon.
People who are from back east will have more complicated names, but out here in the faith community is small and gentle. We refer to people as brother and sister. Cool. All right. And JP, let's talk about your character.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm fixing overlays right now. My guy is he was brought up in the brotherhood. That's what his father did. It's what his grandfather did. He's the straight and narrow, well-rounded dog that's been around this all his life. Kind of knows the world, knows the tales, seen everything that he thinks is to see, basically.
Right, like every other 18-year-old boy in the world.
Basically. Yeah. So he thinks he knows the stuff. Thinks he knows kind of what's going to be happening. But this is probably his first, I guess, official position as a brother. He's never done anything officially in the brotherhood. But
Sure,
he's been there when his parents have, or when his dad has, or when his grandfather has.
Yeah, and there's no prohibition on, like, when you're a dog, you decide when you quit. It's not like you're a dog forever. You can one day say to a steward, the King of Life has called on me to set aside my coat and to take up a family and be done with all this business. But some don't. Some ride the circuit till they die, and people come to it from all times of their life. So your father, it certainly could have been a thing that he decided to retire and then have kids.
Sure, I think something that my father learned from his father was it's kind of a rite of passage around the age of 18. They're kind of sent out on their own and sent to a place on their own, whereas they've been training with their fathers the entire life up to that point. So this is kind of a rite of passage for him being off on his own.
Can you track your lineage back to the founding of the faith? Like because I imagine the dogs haven't, and the faith hasn't been around that long. And if you've got a real tight connection to it, you could probably be like, Hezekiah begat.
Sure.
And so forth on down to you.
I think you can, but it's not something that in the family it's looked down upon to be boastful and throw that around and be like, well, I've been doing this in my family since this was a thing, or since this wasn't a thing.
Everybody knows. Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't have to tell them.
So this is the thing. This is the thing, and the reason why talking about this stuff now is important is because as part of character creation, you're going to have to tell me what your sacred coat looks like, and the coat traditionally is made for you by your community when you leave. It's stitched together. It's like a long quilted coat, and everybody, all the women of the town, do a stitch and they add a panel. And sometimes it's made up of the coats of elders who came before you. Sometimes it's brand new, and it represents your character's kind of stuff. So I've been thinking about your coats as we've been having this conversation. I think they're going to be.
Is that something you create as the
no we'll talk about it and you can tell me, but But what JP? What's your character's name?
Brother Joseph.
Big Joseph.
Classic.
Yeah, good name.
Just
Strong name.
classic.
Good lines.
Good. Yeah. Good.
Cool. All right. So once you've got all your backgrounds kind of figured out, assign those stat dice. You're going to want to have at least 2 in everything, and then you can put the rest into acuity, body, heart, and will as you like.
What's like a high stat?
Yeah.
Is there a cap?
What's the default,
no.
I
There's
guess?
okay. Let me talk about how these get used though. So.
Okay.
Cool.
These are the base of every conflict. When you go into conflict with another character or with the demons of the world at large, you're going to be rolling them in pairs according to what you're doing. So if you're just talking, you're rolling acuity and heart together. If you're doing something physical but not fighting, running, trying to wrestle somebody, it's body and heart. If you're fighting hand to hand, so fists, knives, that sort of thing, it's body and will. And if you're gunfighting, it's acuity and will. So your heart and your body don't matter when you've got steel in your hand. So these, you'll add them together to create your initial pool for a conflict. So if you want your character to be good at any one of those particular things, you want the 2 that are related to it to be quite high. And you'll have some overlap, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then these will get supplemented by the next 2 things that we're going to figure out. So don't worry about it. Anytime between now and when the characters are finished, you can go back and adjust them.
Okay.
So you'll set those out. And then the next thing we're going to do is traits. Now, traits, if you're used to playing a game that's more sort of skill list focused or gives you a bounded box to put points into, this can be like a little bit of a weird experiment. What traits are? These are things that you use to describe your character. They can be statements the character would make about themselves, like I've worked with horses and I know how they think. They can be tidbits of your history. I used to break horses with my dad. It can be attitudes. I'm very comfortable working with horses. They can be, if you want to, you can write them as skills that you've learned. So like mathematics, or critical thinking. If you're, spending some time back east being educated. But they can also be kind of more broad or generally sort of things that your character, you would use to describe the character if you want to get a little poetic. Like if you were playing a sort of dark version of a dog, someone who's somber and a bit moody, you could put one of your traits as I'm the man in black, for example.
Yeah, 1d6.
Yeah, and then put the number of dice. And so the way this works is you're going to use these when you describe your character doing things in a conflict. So we play a little game of poker. We go back and forth, and if you need to add a little oomph to your dice pool, you can call on your trait and describe how that affects your character. So if you're doing something stone cold when everybody expects you to be emotional, like say, a woman's crying because you're trying to drag their sinner kid away to be hanged, you can turn to her and be like, let him go, and give her the man in black stare, and then add those extra dice to convince her to just like shut up and let go of her kid.
So Adam, are these like wises?
Yeah, sort of. They're basically like they're a free-form opportunity for you to say some things about your character. But when you're assigning the dice to them, so you'll have a number of dice. For example, like complicated history gives you 4d4, 2d6, and 2d10.
Yeah.
These things, most of the time, D6 and above is sort of average or good. Your D4 traits, these tend to be disadvantageous for you. Now, don't necessarily think of these as bad. Don't be like, I'm blind as a bat, 2d4. These can be things that just when they come up, they complicate your character's life. So you can flip-flop them and make them strengths too. You can say like, I'm a perfect shot, 3d4. So when it's time to be a perfect shot, things get complicated for you.
Right.
Can you give us a little bit of an example there? Like, is that both mechanically and narratively? Like, why is it more complicated mechanically? And like, how does a perfect shot go bad, for instance?
Yeah. So it's not so much about it being bad. It's just that D4s, the best you can get out of them is a 4. And when we're going back and forth playing the see and raise like poker game we're going to be doing, you want to be able to see with as few dice as possible the more dice you have, the shittier your response to the bad thing that's coming to you. So if you've got a pile of D4s, you can use all of them to get a big number, but that means you've got a whole bunch of small dice, and that's bad.
Right.
Bigger dice tend to get you what you want more often. So think about these traits in terms of like, I want to be able to have the final say in situations related to this thing. And then put your big dice in that thing.
With the awareness that the D4 is really something you're saying about your character.
Yeah, it's you're like, when this happens or when this stuff comes up, this is complicated for my character with those D4s, and you can split these up as much as you like. You may have more or less dice, but you don't have, like, if you have 4d4, it doesn't have to be one 4 die, like 4d4 trait. It can be
you can have multiple traits.
You can split them up however you like. Yeah. Because one 4d4 trait is like pretty complicated. You can split it into 2 if you want, or you can do 1 and 3. It's really just limited by the number that you can.
So the higher the dice, you want to kind of put that in your golden trait. That's something that you care a lot about, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
like if you really, really want to have the final say in every gunfight in the game, if you imagine yourself to be, a slick gunfighter, you could put like 3d10 in fastest shot in the territories. And whenever that comes up, you're going to have 3 big dice to throw into that conflict, and it's going to really push things in your favor. But you can also, like I said, you can also mix it up. You can say fastest gun in the territories, put a bunch of D4s on it, and be like, yeah, I am, but shit goes south when I have to be. Yeah, so this part, you can think that stuff out. One thing to keep in mind: if you don't take a trait related to being a dog, like I'm a dog, or I'm God's watchdog, or I serve in the order set apart to the preservation of faith and the faithful, some trait about your doggedness. If you don't do that, you'll have to take a relationship with the dogs later when we do relationships.
Okay.
Good to know this.
Yeah, and there's really no wrong way to do this. You got to just think of like what kinds of situations you'd be able to use them in, and what you want to say about your character.
Sure.
These are the kinds of things that if they made like a movie poster of the show that we're playing,
Your tagline would be there.
the line at the bottom. Yeah, exactly. This is the kind of thing that people will shout at you at conventions.
Or you'll be able, or in the case of Matt Mercer, you'll be asked to repeat
Yeah.
Over and over.
every 5
I was
minutes.
talking about this when I was doing some prep for the game. I was talking about it during a stream, and actually, most of the Overwatch character like byline things are those little lines are good traits, right? Like it's high noon is actually a pretty good trait.
Yeah.
Even for this game.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to use that for this.
Good call. Yeah. That's nice. Good move. Yeah. But like 1 shot, 1 kill, also good trait. Things your character would say or do or what they think. And I think that a lot of it, like y'all have started to kind of give me an idea about. I was thinking about this, Austin, about our Burning Wheel game that we played. How like your beliefs, you started by basing them on like Kanye West lyrics.
That's true. That is
And
true.
that kind of thing is exactly how you'd make a trait, right? You can use like Bible verse or whatever. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Cool.
Yeah. So if folks have questions or
So unnecessary poetry is totally legitimate in the traits section. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I mean, you want to keep it concise, but one line poems are probably good. As long as you can think of a time when in conflict you would be able to bring that up, and you can use these.
Oh yeah.
You can use these all over the place. Whether you're fighting or talking or shooting, you can always bring your traits in.
Great. You want us to tell you the traits as we?
Yeah. Feel free.
Let's see. I figure as far as Brother Simon's background, part of the issue with his father and the circumstance that brought him to his physicality was convincing himself that the reason his father couldn't shake this alcoholism was he must have had a demon in him.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was not very well trained in exorcism, through sheer force of will and force of fist, I was going to remove this demonic entity from his body And when I reached the point that he broke, I realized there was no demon. And what have I done? So in a sense, I've taken some time to make sure that I can truly research the proper means of getting demons out. I don't want to ever put myself in a position again where I don't know how to deal with the situation or ascertain the right way to deal with it. I don't want anyone else to end up like my father did. So I will find and I will drive the demons out. I will. That's my trait.
Amen.
Nice. These are good traits. I like these.
What dice did you assign to that?
2d6 for that one.
Okay.
I figured that was a sort of a 2d6. Almost beat my dad.
That's where I'm trying to decide. Like, I mean, what's important to the character?
Yeah, like, well, and it's funny because it's more about what's important to you, right? Like,
Yeah.
the fact that you can choose, like, you could have a trait like, I swear to God, I'll kill a man. That could be some D4s, like you got a bad temper, you got a murder streak, or it could be 3D10, like I will go the distance.
That's what I like, right, about it, like from an economics perspective, is that how important those things are is all rendered. I mean, the text and what it means in the game is up to you. So when I say I am prepared as a trait, but I give it a D4, that tells you everything that you need to know.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, I am Sister Sunlight, the supposed chosen of the mountain people redeemed. A better dog than I want to be, frankly. I learned a lot out east, mostly about the folly of men. I am shamefully curious about the joys of cruelty. A damn fine cook and an even better shot.
Oh, this is so good. The curiosity one's killing me. That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome.
Let's see. I think I've run through the rest of my traits here. So, his brother Simon here. Well, I will drive the demons out. I will. And I've certainly in my time had to fight off a few sinners with these. And when that time comes, folks have told me I can be mighty intimidating. But at the same time, I've been told that I have a temper that gets the better of me. And don't you bring any of that demon juice my way. Just control your brain. I will show you what it will do to you.
Awesome.
Demon juice is the best. I love it. I love it so much. Oh, there's a thing in this book about smoking that like only old people smoke.
Yeah,
right?
only old men are allowed to smoke. Everybody else, that shit is sinful. There's actually the faith is interesting because old men get away with a lot. Like a lot of the rules just relax. I
That's
know.
so strange.
Yeah, a lot of the rules just relax. The more old and wifely you get extra.
Yeah.
You get bonus spouses. You get to drink and smoke. You don't
I'm
have
sure
to
it's not. I'm sure it's not correlated in any way with who might have come up with this.
Yeah, it's weird
I
that
feel
the
like
ancients
that's rude.
of the faith
I
are
feel
all
like it's
men.
rude to even suggest that. So I'd like to have that stricken. Yeah. So we're gonna go with the poetry route here for 2d8. We're gonna go with "Scripture is my home." So I want him to be that. I want him to be that guy, right?
Nice.
That when I was at the lake and there were some boys being mean to me, I was quoting scripture at them, and I want this kid who has become a man to be similar, where that's the answer is always in that book somewhere. I want him to have it. I want him to have his Bible in a case, like something in the way that if you were in Afghanistan, you would have an EMP hardened computer.
Right.
I want this Bible to be a weaponized Bible. We're going to go with prune the branch. He doesn't feel like you have to kill people. He feels like if anything can be saved in that branch, it should. And so I feel like there's a couple different applications, whether the gun's out or not. I feel like trying to cleverly assert the will of the church is right. But also functionaries and lower level people aren't really his concern. He feels that there's a situation just like there was in his town where there was a man. At the end of the day, there was a man who was serving the devil. And if you can find that person, you can avoid a lot of bloodshed on the way.
Awesome. That's great. Sweet. Oh, I'm excited. This is going to be a total mess.
Yeah, it's gonna be Trubs. It's gonna be
Yeah,
Trubs
love
for
it.
real.
I love how we're basically building like a whole like Sins of the Father campaign here. Like all
Oh
of us are
yeah,
just like
it happened
cool,
automatic, right?
Yep. Huh, you got a bunch of nerds together. What happened?
Have you, JP, you got your traits?
I think so. We'll have the 2d8 be the family name Bartlett. So I'll just drop that if ever I get into an argument and
Smooth.
they gotta fucking realize what's going on.
And the great thing about that as a trait too is like it's not like you're telling someone for the first time. They can see your coat, they know
Right,
upon your
right.
countenance. Having to use your family name, that's when it gets serious.
The other two, I understand the order of things. That's the D4, so I think you can get a grasp on it if I really do. And then Bartletts don't give up. We determine who has been chosen, and that's a 46.
Smooth. Smooth.
Nice.
Hey, JP,
What's up?
I don't know if you were aware of this, but a lot of people watch your channel. I have to close this window.
Okay.
I can't have this open right now.
Noted. Understood.
I need to prepare. I need to pretend that it's just us.
Okay. I'm right there.
All
It's
right.
just us. I don't know why else you would think otherwise.
It's just us and God, Jay.
Yeah. It's just us and God. That's true. That's
The
true.
king.
All right.
All right, have we reached the coat phase? Are we talking about?
We're almost at the coat phase. We got to talk about relationships real quick. Now, since none of you have an explicit trait about being a dog, you can go ahead and give yourself a relationship with the dogs.
I do have a better dog than I want to be.
Yeah, so that one
Yeah.
counts.
It's killer.
And so these now the thing with relationships, I would almost suggest, since this is a one shot, spreading out the dice but not filling out any names, because I'm not going to get a chance to be like, if you're like my father, I'm not going to necessarily just be like, cool, your father fucking drop pods into the middle.
We'll see him in episode 5.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we can work up to that, but if you leave them blank, you can just say, like, I recognize my father in this man. I'm taking a relationship with, Elijah. And the way that relationships work, you'll get to call on them in certain circumstances. If you have a relationship with the person and they're what's at stake in the argument, if your status with that person is at stake, you can have relationships with a place. So if you're fighting in that place or over that place, that can be your relationship. The commission of a sin that regards that person as at stake. You can also have a relationship with a particular sin if you like. And later, as the campaign rolls on, you would normally be able to take relationships with particular demons. So you can have a relationship with the demon Hezekiah who waits at midnight, and whenever that demon shows his ugly face, you have your relationship based there. If the person to whom you're related is or having your relationship is a blood relative, you'll get an extra D6. But feel free to split those up and place them.
So that would imply to me that you automatically have a D6 with any relation. Is that correct?
Yeah, you have a D6 with anybody you're related to by blood, and that is to show that the community of the faith is closely knit, but also to encourage players to do that whole like, oh, he's my cousin thing because I need that extra D6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Could I make like a blanket relationship, like everyone knows my father or something like that? Or is that too general?
But that's a relationship that other people have with you.
Right.
You
Okay,
can
that's
take
true.
a relationship with the Bartletts. They're an organization, right?
Okay.
That's
Or an establishment. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that in this case would be like if you're dealing with someone else who has authority in that institution, which is to say your family at large, or your status as a Bartlett is at stake, you can roll in that dice. So if somebody says to you like this behavior is unbecoming of a Bartlett, you can be like, whoa,
Okay.
I that not you.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's something that you can do.
Well, everyone's figuring this out. How did you guys spread your stats out? Did anyone go? I just did 46 and everything except body. I went 5d6 because I have a lot of dice to spread around. But did anyone feel strongly in any particular stat?
Well, I went not super strong. I built up specifically my acuity and heart, mostly for character reasons.
Okay.
and I dip the body down to 3d6, which I'm sure I'll be made to suffer for at some point. But I like the idea that he is a creature of the spiritual realm.
Sure.
Yeah, I did 5d6 in acuity, 3d6 in body and heart, and then 4d6 in will. Again, like not particularly robust in terms of the old physiology, but brains, heart, actually not heart. Also, I think like there's a lot of code switching happening for her. Because like there are moments when she needs to play up that she is of a mountainous heritage, and there are times when she has to like put on the voice that civilized men have, and she's not really comfortable in either. So she's not good at that, and so her charisma kind of falls from that. Like
I was going to say, but the work is always there, right?
Right.
It's always work.
Yes.
Like that process is always chewing up RAM.
Exactly.
The mountain people are seen alternately as vermin, savages, or God's chosen people, right? The lost tribes of Israel. Like, thank the Lord, we found them. Let's bring back
so,
old.
Yeah, I think any interaction she steps into, it's immediate. Like, all right, which mode am I supposed to be in? And that makes it really hard to be successful in any of those modes.
Well,
yeah. Let's see. So Brother Simon definitely sees himself as, and many of his community see him as, the blunt instrument of the dogs. Currently, his penchant for fire and brimstone presentation means that he's usually the last line of approach whenever they're trying to deal with a delicate situation. But he has his methods, and they seem to be functional as long as he's around folks that can decide when's the best time to let the dog loose, if you will. As such, put himself at an acuity of 4, body of 4, a will of 5, but a heart of 2.
Really?
yeah.
He thinks he can understand and see and really understand other people, but when he can't, which is often, it just frustrates him. So he has to rely on his companions to let him know when it's time to step back.
You wouldn't like Brother Simon when he's angry.
Gotcha. Okay.
For their banner.
I'll change my body up and then kind of roll with that. So I'll go 3d6. I'll be the quote dumb one of the group. 3d6 acuity, 66 body, and then 46 on heart and will.
All right. So now we just got to talk about your belongings, of which you have few, but you'll get to use the fun belonging description list to assign some dice to them. So the stewards of the Dog's Temple make sure that every dog owns a horse, a coat, a copy of the Book of Life, a jar of consecrated earth, and a gun. They don't insist that you take the gun or the horse if for some reason you choose not to. You might own other weapons or books, pen and stationery, distinctive articles of clothing like a hat or fine dress, keepsakes, anything you think is interesting, provided it fits in the setting, no Maxim gun, and a person could reasonably travel with it on horseback. And for things, they work just like traits or relationship. You would write them as big knife, 1d8, excellent horse, 2d6. And you only bother with possessions you care about. Don't write down provisions or bullshit like that. This is how you give a thing dice. If it's a normal thing, if it's just a thing like every other thing like it, it's 1d6. If it's an excellent thing, it's 2d6. It's only excellent if people meeting your character would notice it and be like, ooh, that's a mighty fine thing. 1d8 if it's big. Similarly, holy smokes, that's a big thing. 2d8 if it's both excellent and big. 1d4 if it's crap. Crap plus big, still a d4. This is true of everything in the world. So if you get a big crappy horse, it's 1d4. Doesn't matter. Dogs, knives, hats, boots, rakes, whatever you got. If it needs dice, 1d6 if it's normal, other dice if it's anything else. There's one exception to this. Guns always get an extra d4. Excellent gun, big gun, 2d8 plus 1d4. Because every time you take that gun out of your holster, you are inviting complication. It does just across the board. You'll always get that d4. So you can give your character as many belongings as you like within reason, and just record those on the sheet according to your parameters there.
Okay.
Yeah. Just as you do that for the audience for envisioning this stuff, it's a particular Wild West, and it's sort of maybe an earlier Wild West. So when we're talking about guns, we're not talking about like shiny 6-shooters. We're talking about these like big ass Colt dragoons that are like the length of your forearm, big gray iron things, essentially one-hand rifles. They're enormous.
Talking about like 357s, right?
Like
Bigger.
not bigger necessarily, but like less flashy.
Okay.
Yeah, pre kind of like Civil War, like repeater type guns. They're not like a gunfighter's pistol. They're
Okay.
business, these ones.
Great.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have nothing but excellent big stuff, I'm envisioning your book of life. Big excellent book of life. Yeah, consecrated earth. That sort of thing.
It's an excellent book of life in an excellent case with an excellent chain.
Good.
The golden chain attached to your hip.
Oh, Adam, but this is just because I know that you will appreciate this and dork out with me. Most of what he has with him. So I feel like he has a specialty in these doctrinal disputes, where, having been a child of one of these corrupt faiths, I think that he gets sent to assess very deviations from the book of life. And so in his bag, I have the new book of Ezekiel, a revelation of Jebediah Cole, and then a pamphlet called Prosperity Yours. So he's just got heaps of these things. So he has collected all of these false religions.
Right. Collected a false doctrine.
And so that he can always compare them to the true book.
Right. That's good. Rad. God forbid that you ever were killed and those fell into the wrong hands.
Oh yeah, because they'll be able to choose. Just we have 4 books. They seemed like they were all important. Let's just found civilizations based on these.
None of this would have been a problem if Martin Luther would have just kept his damn mouth shut.
So Adam, I have a question. So you're saying that I can just take a big, excellent gun and then get a bunch more dice? Is that?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy.
We're all gonna be that guy. It's okay.
Yeah. If you envision yourself carrying a big, excellent gun, then everyone will see it and be like, "Wow, that gun is huge and excellent."
So I think I came back from the East with 3 things. One is an excellent blade for cooking and other things. One is a lever action rifle, gun, which is like that's like straight off the presses of guns, right? And also I have 2 novels, which are 1d4. I have Jane Eyre and I have Wuthering Heights, which I picked up back east, and I should not have.
No,
I absolutely should not, but they give me such joy.
Yeah,
this is some Fahrenheit 451 shit.
Yep.
Outside of regular belongings, Brother Simon has most all the usual things across the board. One thing he did take back with him is an excellent icon of the king that he wears around his neck.
Cool.
These are intrinsic to the discovery and exorcism of various demons that may cross your path. He himself, in trying to really learn the right and proper process to go ahead and send these entities back from the flaming depths from which they came, this is the symbol of his strength in his bare fists. And he wears it proudly and like a giant headlight, that when he walks through the street, first thing anyone's eye goes to is the symbol of our Lord and the man who walks behind it as his mouthpiece.
Excellent. I like it. Cool. Yeah, you can use ceremony as essentially like a trait or a ritual when you're in conflict with the demons of the world. So anointing with sacred earth, calling by name, invoking the ancients.
Yeah, scripture.
Scripture. All those things become a part of the see and raise mechanism.
Right.
So that will very much help in your ceremony as well.
Mm-hmm.
Weird Roll20 question. I have 4 traits that keep that are locked.
Yeah. You can add additional traits under that. Those spots are for Fallout traits, which you'll get later.
Gotcha.
But you can just keep adding blank ones, and they'll be.
For my inventory, I've got a big dumb horse, so it's just a D4. So the Bartletts are not the best at caring for the horses. We're more about tradition and all that nonsense.
Your big dumb horse have a name?
You fucked up.
Yeah, I'm trying to
gonna
think
suggest-
now.
I'm
I
gonna
was gonna go
suggest
like a
horse.
really dumb. I'm trying to think biblical.
I'm trying to think of the dumbest horse I can think of, and Wilbur just keeps coming to mind.
I wanted to just go with something like Chuck. Chuck the big dumb horse, but
Big
But
dumb
Charlie would be a badass name for a horse, honestly.
Yeah.
Charlie, yeah, yeah. I'll think about
I
that.
would love that horse.
Yeah, he could be big and dumb.
We
It's
could
okay.
all love Charlie, and then you're like,
Yeah.
Chuck is just a piece of work.
Yeah. The Bartletts just hate him, but everyone else, in everyone
Well,
else's eyes,
everybody
he
else
likes
is
him.
like, they got that sugar cube, they got that apple.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, they're serving this horse.
sure, sure. I've got the coat. I've got 2 Elgin pistols, which are 2 bladed pistols.
Yeah.
Cool.
That are kind of the Bartlett weaponry of that we've used, that my grandfather used, my father used. Then I've got the jar of consecrated earth, like you said, and then a family crest, which is just kind of like a badge that goes on the coat.
Cool. Is it sewn into your coat, or is it like attached to it?
I think it's attached to it. It's pinned to it in some fashion.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I don't think I have any family stuff just because of how I had to leave there. And we have to consider that anything they would have had would be corrupted, you know, just as the teachings were from the pulpit.
Mhm.
So I think I don't have anything like that. But when we get to this coat, I think that the coat that he has, I suspect that his father was actually keeping these coats after killing these dogs coming into town.
That's like a 7 Samurai situation.
I think that the coat that he took, the coat that he wears now, is a coat that he got from this stash.
Nice. And so you're like trying to redeem it, or
Exactly.
make good? Yeah.
Exactly
Okay.
right.
Cool. So it's probably like a little ragged from being like under the floorboards of the barn.
No, it is. I think that it was red. It was red and gold, and now it's sort of like brown around the edge, but somehow the gold is still shining.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm thinking
yes.
for Brother Simon's coat, it's actually pretty well kept. He takes very good care of it. He's very proud of it, and the community that put it together for him, he wants to wear it as a symbol of that respect and appreciation, and the hope that he himself could stand up to that expectation. The one interesting note is right in the center of the middle back, right where it would be really easy to see, there is a large hole
Cool.
about the size of one of the patches. When the community got together, the patch in the center they gave was one that his father gave to him, and it just said, I have faith for you, and I'm sorry.
Oh,
And when he received the coat, and no one in the community knows the situation that he and his father went through, he privately tore that from the coat
mhm.
and will not wear it. And so there is this pristine coat that he wears as he walks, with this just large, empty, missing space that he will not fill.
Nice. Cool. I like it.
So my coat is too new. There's no
Yeah.
history there, right?
Yeah.
It's my parents came into the faith, but there is no great history of justice. There is no great history of faithfulness inside of my family. So the town that we were brought into made me a new coat. But they did this thing that I think they thought was really good and kind, which is they included all of these like feathers and thorns and things that
I was just about to say, so yeah, like your coat was a coat for the mountain folk made by white people.
that's exactly it.
Oh boy.
So it's all
Yes.
fetishes, like
Yep.
Great.
And like she doesn't know what the fuck.
I'm actually pretty sure I saw Sister Sunlight's coat on somebody at Coachella last year. I saw that at Urban Outfitters. Maybe.
Yep, exactly. But it's a coat, and the coat means something, and it has a badge, and that means something. So she wears it.
Yeah, for real.
right. For what it says to other people, I suspect.
Yes,
I'm in your context.
yes, exactly.
I think Joseph's coat is a pristine leather black duster, but
Ooh.
inside the inseam is multicolored, as it should be.
Oh, like Joseph, right?
Yeah.
That's
that's
awesome.
kind of like the family trait. So if people are lucky enough to ever see the coat not on me, then they can tell that from afar.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there's-
sure.
nice.
But
I mean,
I bet
I-
very few people know, right?
Sure.
I bet very few people know. Certainly in the Vineyard, they don't know.
Well,
Hmm.
it would be the kind of thing that would be almost like too sacred to go showing people, because it probably has patches on it that have been touched by the prophets themselves, right? Like
So
this is
old.
founder level shit. There's a Shroud of Turin in there somewhere, you know.
Sure.
If
Into
your
it.
if your lineage goes back, that's really cool. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. All right. So now we got a pretty good handle on our characters. We know what our coats look like. Why don't we take a quick break here, and when we get back, we'll find out what each of these characters learned during their initiation, and then we'll jump into the town.
Woohoo!
Fantastic. All right. Character creation's almost over, guys. We'll come back and start the damn game. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. More roleplay coming up right after this. We'll see you guys then.